You ask me who is the best fantasy esports service in the Counter-Strike scene? Alpha Draft, of course. This game is not about headshots, it's about players. It's about the team. I think you have to be really smart to be an in-game leader. And the same for drafting. So make your calls, the right calls, and win huge prizes. Okay, so at the moment, we have two top French teams, two teams ranked in the top 10. We have Envious and we have G2, formerly Titan. And the problem right now is neither of these teams look like they're going to win a major. Neither of them look like they're going to be very good. Neither of them are consistently excellent. Like G2 is just consistent and they're not excellent except for the odd map. Envious is excellent for the map, but not consistent. And so the problem right now is we've got all this talent, one of the most talented scenes in the whole world, fantastic experience, success, talent, all the roles that you could want in the game are there within the French scene, and yet we don't have a top team that's going to win the world championship right now, unless Envious do some miracle turnaround. So, when you look at these two top teams, let's examine them as teams first and then consider how we could make a dream team out of this that could actually be good. Not just a team on paper of the 5 best French players, a team that could actually work as a team. So first of all, you've got to look at Envious, and obviously Envious have a lot of talent because when they made this lineup, particularly when they had Kiyashima, because going into that lineup, Kiyashima had been one of the better players. Him and Shox are the best players in the old Envious before they made the roster move for Kenny S and Apex. It looked like, right, it's sealed up, Envious has done it now, fuck Titan, fuck G2, they've got no chance ever again against this team because the best players overall, the most skill in France is in this one Envious team, and that was the case for the first few months. But Kiyashima fell off, wasn't very good, and since then everyone in the team's had their own issues except Kenny has actually gotten better. Now the problem with Envious is they've got a lot of talent still, but they don't have the results now. Over the last 7 events, so all their events since winning the major at Cluj-Napoca, they've placed last place 3 of 7 times. The only tournament they won during this time period was the Global Esports Cup by Game Show, which had no Fnatic, no Envious, no Luminosity, which are my 3 top 3 teams in the world right now. Obviously, this is a few months ago. Admittedly, they had a couple of really nice results. They beat Fnatic in 2 best-of-3s and looked fantastic doing so. They could beat the Astralis / formerly TSM guys, but overall, the results have not been good enough for a team of this level of talent. They use that force buy style, which they're not even the best at now, and they don't even seem to know when to apply now. Now they just do it permanently, and either they're going to win games, which they don't do very often, or it's killing them and suiciding them in games. Like in map 1, Dust 2 against NRG at Counterpit, where it was 13-13, they were on T side, and they just force-bought their way to Oblivion, and I think they actually lost 16-13, or was it 16-14? Whatever it was a terrible T side execution, and force-buying themselves to death. They've got a pretty poor map pool. I did this in my video, I'll link it up there, about why the Envious era failed, where basically at any one time, they at most only have 4 maps they can even play. Beyond the 4 maps, they're dead. Now, of the 4 maps, first of all, those are switching up, and they're not anymore excellent at any of the 4 maps. They used to at least be exceptional at their top 3 maps. Now they're just okay at the top 3 maps, and then they're terrible at the rest. So their map pool's gone to shit. They've been bad online, especially relative to their talent, doing terrible in ESEA Pro League, just like even record at the moment. They should be one of the top teams with the talent they have. Then you got to look at G2. Okay, G2 is just solid. They have all these veterans, all these experienced players. Not many of them in very good form at the moment, and they're just a solid team. They take maps off top teams, but they don't win series off top teams. They're like a gatekeeper to the top 10. They're a solid tactical team, whereas that force buying, loose style of Envious hasn't been working because despite their talent, they haven't been having the good performances, and the style seems a bit antiquated and a bit countered at the moment, and their map pool's not allowing it to work. G2 is more of the solid, execute style tactics, a basic tactical playbook. We know what maps they're going to be good on, what rounds they're going to be good on, in what way they're going to achieve their success. So there's a consistency and a solidness to their level of play there, which combined with the experience and the roles that they play, we know that's why they're going to be a decent team. They're a team with a decent map pool. Here's the thing, they're not exceptional at any maps, but they've got a solid map pool. It's decently rounded out for a team of their level of talent, which isn't very much. That's their problem. They lack firepower. They have players who've historically been good players in CSGO and played roles at some of the best at their roles in years gone by, but right now, not a lot of firepower in the team ultimately. Scream still inconsistent, has been having the odd LAN. RPK is getting a bit better, but still a very middling player for a pro. Smith has been very poor. Existence has been a bit better in firepower, but he's the in-game leader, and so essentially it is still the Shox show. They need Shox to drop 30, have like 110 ADR for them, have a chance to beat these better teams. Difference is, G2's good online, whereas Envious isn't. So, okay, the big problem when we're making this French super team is on paper, I can do what I want. I can put whatever players I want. But we know the real reason why the super team doesn't exist is because there are personality issues between some of these players. More importantly, unless something drastic happens, like Envious is really bad, G2 is pretty good, some of the players on G2 show that they're really good, the G2 players want to go to Envious, the contracts can all be worked out. Unless all of that happens and the issues are put aside, these personality problems, clashes, frictions will keep this super team from ever happening. There are 3 relationships that cannot happen right now in French CSGO. Existence will not be playing with MBK from MBK's side of things. He left for that reason. You can see in my reflections that I'll put up there. He doesn't want to play with Existence again. Doesn't like Existence's style. He thinks Happy redefined the metagame. He wants to play with Happy. He's chosen Happy over Shocks even. So he's chosen Happy over 2 different people now. I mean, he didn't technically choose Happy over Existence before, but he would choose him now over Existence. And so he won't be going back to Existence as far as we know right now as it stands. Another relationship, Existence and Happy. Now, they have totally counter philosophies on the game. You couldn't get more far apart in terms of the way one thinks of the set strat style of play and anti-striking people, and the other one thinks of this loose, calling on the fly, creating matchups, having a feel for the map in an intuitive sense rather than studying demos. They're totally different. They're diametrically opposed. One is the apotheosis to the other one. You're just not going to see anathema, whatever you want to call it. You're just not going to see the 2 of them combined. And they both best work as in-game leaders. So also, I doubt you'll see them together. Even though if they could put aside the issues in that sense, I also could see a team where you could put them together. But anyway, the 3rd relationship that you cannot have is Shocks and Happy. Shocks wanted to kick Happy out of the team. Shocks wanted to be the in-game leader of Envious instead of Happy. Happy has always had some sort of mild tension with Shocks. He used to try and make Shocks be the in-game leader, the entry fragger rather than be a lurker, because Happy wanted the lurker role. So first of all, leadership clashes there. Secondly, position classes. Shocks should probably be playing Happy's role, so you're probably not going to see that relationship fixed again. Although I think if he had the offer, Shocks might actually go back up to Envious if he had a really good offer and a chance to win there. So that's probably the easiest one to fix. So there's those 3 relationships preventing a number of super teams there, because essentially I had 3 different players there, and each of them except MBK is mentioned in 2 of the relationships. Now, as I did mention, they say that they won't play together, but this has happened before and players did play together. So Happy and Apex were never going to play together because Apex stabbed Happy in the back, left LDLC, who had finished top 4 at the major, went over and went to Titan and abandoned Happy, and Happy might have just been left to the wind. And if they had have gotten, I think it was Uzi instead of Happy as the 5th for Envious, LDLC at the time, Happy would have just been left off in that world of like Scream and the people who got banned for cheating, match fixing. So his career might have been over. There's beef there that doesn't want to get fixed. Except it did, didn't it? Because Apex came over to Envious when Envious was having a slump, and then they got Kenny S and Apex. They brought them in. It worked well together. They won a major together, so that got fixed. Shocks in Existence. They were never going to play together again, right? Shocks left Very Games and later Titan teams number of times because of beef with him, wanting to play more of a loose style. Existence wants a more stricter style of how to play. Existence wants to practice a lot, study a lot, be very professional. Shocks wants to be a bit more loose, be a bit more just play on passion and play your own style and play very intuitively instead of playing this more stricter style. And also there's been personality clashes between them in terms of motivation over the years going back to Very Games. So they'll never play together again, right? Except when Shocks gets kicked out of Envious, where does he go? Well, the only other team available, and suddenly everything's cool with Existence again, and they're playing together. So I do think these could be fixed, but the key thing is, there's always a motivating factor. Like someone's doing badly themselves, they see that the other person could help them, and that gets them past the ego aspect, and they make the team. So now I've said all these massive disclaimers, now let's make the French super team. So first and foremost, let's start with the in-game leader. There's only one. NBK can't be the in-game leader. He's having a terrible time corralling the troops, and he's got a team that all respect him, that all know that he's a veteran, although he's never been like legit bad in CSGO. They know he's got the all-around toolkit, he's played all these different roles, and he can't get them all on the same page doing what he wants. So he can't be the in-game leader. Happy can't be the in-game leader because, again, people multiple times throughout their careers have lost faith in him, have wanted to play a style. His style's broken a couple of times in CSGO, even as much as he's also broken the metagame with that style at different times. So he's not even the in-game leader of his team right now. Doesn't look like they want him to be the in-game leader. Therefore, there's only one candidate left, Existence, who has never been a bad in-game leader. He's always had a strong tactical mind. At times early on in CSGO, he was the best in-game leader. I'd put the case that even late 2014, early 2015, he was the best because he worked with less talent, only really had Kenny S and Apex, and was still achieving miracles, making finals, making semis, taking the best team of all time close, beating them even in series when no one else could. Very strong tactical mind. has even continued to show it even in this era with way less firepower than he's ever had in this current lineup. He has very little firepower. And yet, look what he's done in this era. They're a strong tactical team. They've got a solid map pool. They're taking maps off top teams. They've figured out overpass and train, two of the customs, in a way that Happy, in his envious lineups, never was able to. He could never get these maps figured out, especially overpass. That's why it was a permaban for them in this last era with Kiyoshima, Kenny S, and Apex. So permaban. He's managed to figure out even the new maps, which shows the way his mind adapts to the game. And that's why his teams will always have a solid use of roles, so they'll get a decent amount out of each player no matter how skilled they may or may not be, and they'll always have a solid approach to the game, and that's what you're seeing at the moment. And you're seeing the consistency. Also, it helps that he's improved his fragging in the latter era when the team needed more firepower. And finally, he has played with everyone else on this list, so he knows how to use them. He knows how to play with them, and that's a bonus when you're making a team. So Existence as in-game leader, I think that one's pretty much open and shut. Then you go to, I'm going to have my first player I'm going to pick after that is going to be Kenny S. And he's going to be both my star player and my AWPer. And you notice I emphasize both those aspects. He's not just going to be my AWPer and every now and then have the AWP and have Happy take the AWP off him like happens in Envious now. He is going to be my AWPer every time we have money for an AWP and we're doing a buy. He is going to be the star of the team. We're going to build it around him because at the moment he is the best French player. You saw that at Game Show. You saw that at Counterpit. He is the only true carry player in France right now. He should be the star of the team. He's the best French player, so give him his due, build a team around him, and give him the AWP all the time. And that will build confidence in him, and that will build a system where he can succeed with the AWP because you've helped facilitate him as well. He's not going to be Kenny S early 2015, probably, but he still can be very good, and he can be a powerhouse aspect to this team that's got consistency anyway to help us win. Now, my third player I'm going to pick is going to be NBK, and he's going to be my support player. Because as a support player, he is one of the best players in the world. But in France, he is easily the best French support player. You saw how fantastic he was before they switched it up in this team where they made Kiyoshima move more back and MBK start doing more of the entry and then MBK became the in-game leader. As a pure support, he's a fantastic player. He's one of the only supports that can just take over a game. It's basically him and Zipnix were the ones, and Crims, I guess. Those are the three, where they also were supports and every now and then just have a game where they just took over entirely. Now, I also think he's got the best all-around skill set, so we can use him on certain maps to plug different spots. He can also hold solo sites on maps, which is a very good position for a support to be able to have. And more importantly, Kenny S needs support right now, so we can use him to directly help Kenny S instead of just helping it Happy all the time like he did on Envious. Now, after that, I need to pick who I'm going to have as my lurker, and I have two choices here. It's the only position where I've got two choices. I can pick Happy or I can pick Shox. Now, in the past, Happy was the better lurker in the last couple of years because Shox was used as an entry fragger in Envious. Therefore, Happy was free to be the lurker, and he was one of the best lurkers, certainly the best in the French scene at the time. In years past, Shox was the best lurker / mid-round player, and before that, it was probably NBK in very games early on. Now, when I look at this, Happy right now, the problem is Happy can only do that style really well, which he can, if he's the in-game leader. I've seen the reason why it looks like he's baiting all the time now. It's because he is baiting all the time, but not to be negative. He baits now because since he's not the in-game leader, he's not triggering all the action. He's not deciding how things go down, and so his timing is off. He's not connected with the others in terms of communication and that intuitive sense of knowing what they're going to do. So instead, Shox is a much easier pick here, because Shox's levels at the moment in terms of skills, similar levels at the moment, but he's going to be more effective. He plays that style better, and actually at raw clutching, when you put them 1v1 and 1v2, Shox is better, and he always has been. He's one of the best clutch players of all time. Also, as a side point, I want to have Shox and Kenny S on a team for once. They're two of the top 5 players of all time in CSGO for my list, and they've never played together on a team properly, like a real actual competitive team, so I'd love to see them play like that. Also, taking Happy out of the mix takes out a couple of those problems where he won't play with Shox and he can't play with Existence. So that takes two of the three relationships that can't exist again out of the equation. My final player, I'm going to pick Apex as my entry fragger. He's easily the best entry fragger in France, and he's one of the best in the world still, but he's not a star, and so I won't need him to be a star on this team, and with a proper structure around him, we can give him proper follow-up, and this is a great team, I think. I think this team on paper is fucking fantastic. I don't even mind going the other way with the Happy option. I just don't think it'll be as good without him being the in-game leader, and I don't think he can coincide along with Existence, unfortunately, because I think his mind's so set against it. So I would go with Shox in that scenario. So my super team is Existence in-game leader, Kenny S AWPer, NBK support, Shox lurker, Apex entry fragger. I've got all the roles covered. I've got good players in all the roles. I've got players who I think would synergize well. And I think in this scenario, we'd have a fantastic team that could be one of the best 3 in the world and could win majors. So there we go, boys. Wee wee.